All right, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we are live. We are here for podcast episode number 2.
Should I say yo, yo, yo?
If you want people to come back, you better say it.
That was the most popular thing that I said this last week.
Yeah, we're over here talking about and philosophizing about how, music and warm up and all these scales and like how you become a great player, and everybody's favorite part is yo, yo, yo.
Yo, yo, yo.
So anyways, I wanted to kick it off. Obviously, this episode, we don't have to talk about who we are. I don't think people cared about who we were anyway, so...
Probably not, but we should at least say our names.
Yeah, Ben Nobles.
Michael Attaway.
Boom. Done.
Boom.
So speaking on the topic of warm-up, I was reading The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, suggested by not Michael Gerber, but Michael Attaway.
Yep.
So, great book about why most businesses don't work and how some do. But I wanted to read a passage out of it really quickly to start this off. And just anytime I say the word work, I want you to insert the word practice. Or some of you may consider that work. But for me, I was reading it and it applies perfectly to practice time. So it says, the manager continued as if the owner were talking through him. So it's a manager taking ownership over basically what would be his practice time. It says, work is passive without you. It can't do anything. Work is only an idea before a person does it. But the moment a person does it, the impact of the work on the world becomes a reflection of that idea. Obviously, the world would be the band program or really your self-development in your life. The idea behind the work as well as the person doing it. In the process, the work you do becomes you, and you become the force that breathes life into the idea behind the work. You become the creator of the impact on the world of the work you do. There is no such thing as undesirable work. That's cool.
Yeah.
He continued, there are only people who see certain kinds of work as undesirable. People who use every excuse in the world to justify why they have to do work they hate to do. People who look upon their work as a punishment for who they are and where they stand in the world rather than as an opportunity to see themselves as they really are. What the boss said is that people like that don't bring life to the idea of work they do, they bring death to it. The result of that is always what we experience as the sloppy, inconsiderate, inconsistent, and inhuman transactions that take place between most businesses and the people who buy from them, exactly the opposite of what we have here.
It's powerful.
How perfect is that?
Yeah. My gosh. If, the concept of the work that you do is a reflection of you, my goodness, if we could communicate that to our students somehow, that's life-changing.
Because, it perfectly encompasses how I feel about practicing, right? And if you don't have that element of kind of, this is who I am, this is what I'm becoming, and like discipline, Jocko Willink's big thing is discipline equals freedom. And I see that exact same thing with what they're talking about here in our practice time. Discipline in practice time equals the freedom to be whoever you want to be as a player, right? Anyways, just wanted to start that off, kick that off. I think it's a great concept to kind of tie in what we were talking about last week. But anyway, let's cut straight to. I know you've got a big topic that you want to talk about today. You were at TMEA last week.
Yep.
The TMEA. Which,
TMEA.
if you don't know what that is, it's Texas Music Educators Association. If you make All-State, you get to go and enjoy none of the festivities because you're in rehearsal the whole time. So
yeah, but man, it's a blast.
Yeah,
Holy
if
smokes.
you're at the convention, playing with that level, that caliber of player is crazy surreal. So.
Do you the conductor for the Philharmonic Orchestra, the second orchestra, was the assistant conductor with the New York Philharmonic.
Man.
Holy smokes.
Do you remember who your conductor was whenever you were there?
I do. It was Anthony Elliott, who's the world-famous cello professor in Michigan. I don't know if he still teaches or not. So I had him, and then actually the year before I was a junior, I had James Stamp. No. Jack Stamp. No. Who wrote Gavortner Fanfare? Do you know?
Don't ask me. I don't know.
Oh, gosh. James Stamp is a trumpet teacher. Jack... I don't know. It was I can't believe I can't remember. But he was one of the big composers of band music in that era.
Yeah, it's crazy what team. I had the conductor, the head conductor of the orchestras at Oberlin Conservatory. And I remember distinctly I was in the Wind Symphony and we played our first note And he was like, so this is why they talk about Texas bands so much. And I
Right.
was like, yeah, buddy.
I've got a good buddy who made the symphony orchestra around the same time that I was there, but I don't know what year this was, but they had Benjamin Zander as the conductor.
I don't know who that is.
He is the conductor of, gosh, is it the City of Birmingham Symphony? He's like the Mahler guy now. His Mahler recordings are the best Mahler recordings that you can get that have been made in the last 10 years.
That's crazy.
I mean, he's amazing. I'm like big name, for real conductor.
And that's who we get.
And that's who the Texas All-State kids got to play under.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so while you were there, you want to talk about your experience and then kind of lead that into the general topic of the day.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to be able to do a clinic with Tony Plogue, and if anyone's not familiar with who that is, Tony he's now retired. Yeah, mostly retired. He does a lot of online teaching now, but he lives in Freiburg, Germany. But he was the former trumpet professor of the Oslo Conservatory in Norway. And before that, he was at the Freiburg Musikalische Hochschule, or however you say that, in Freiburg, Germany. And then before that, he was at USC. He's had an international solo career. He played in the San Antonio Symphony for a while. A lot of stuff with the LA Philharmonic. He's a kind of a big composer, too, of brass music.
So how did you get connected with him?
So funny story.
Nothing against you.
No,
You're awesome,
believe me, we are in two different categories. He emailed me and said, "Hey, I'd like to drum up some business in Texas, working with some of the bands." And he said, "Do you think I should get a booth at TMEA?" And I said, "Well, you could. That's pretty expensive. Why don't you maybe submit a proposal to do a clinic?" I said, "You could team up with a local professor in the state of Texas, and you might get your foot in the door."
Right.
And I just threw out there, I said, "I'd be happy to do it with you, but you probably want someone with more credibility." That's what I said to him. And so his response back was, "I would love to do a clinic with you." And I said, "Okay."
That works.
And so we were talking over Skype a week or two before. And we're talking over concepts that we wanted to cover and kind of the format and all this. And I mentioned something, and I don't quite remember how we got to it, but he said, "Oh, yeah, we talked about that the last time I did a masterclass at Juilliard." And I said, "Oh, okay, well, I've been inside Juilliard once for an audition." So I told that story at the clinic. I was like, so I'm trying to look like the idiot here. So anyway, that was it. The clinic was a lot of fun. It was over brass pedagogy. I've never taught teachers before. Taught students many times, but teaching teachers is very different.
In what regard?
They're very attentive. So they make a great audience. They're very polite. And in that way, it's tough to gauge how it's going when you're doing it. Students are very transparent. If you're not connecting with them, they look like they're bored out of their minds. Or if you're connecting with them, they're with you. They're smiling, they're laughing, all these things, providing comments back. Teachers don't do that.
Right.
It's very calm and polite. And so I found it hard to kind of try to look through that and actually judge, okay, well, is this actually going over okay, or are they just being nice to me?
Right.
So I think it went okay.
I heard from a bunch of people that it went fine. It went
Well, that's
really
good.
well. Yeah,
That's good. That's comfort.
Because I was kind of curious because it's like, well, were you guys talking about fundamentals whenever you were there?
Yeah, it was fundamentals in brass playing.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, that was my purpose for being there, as well as to also kind of scout out the vendors and see if there's anyone else that's doing what we're doing or what we plan to do.
Right.
There's not, or at least they weren't at TMEA. So that's pretty cool. Then we're very much going to be a trendsetter once we launch all the stuff that we're going to be doing. The closest thing that we have are people that offer online lessons, which we're not really doing.
Yeah,
we're going to offer
really what
instructional videos and then feedback.
Yeah.
In more of a kind of a game setting. So
yeah, which is another interesting thing to bring up, because the more I think about it, I mean, it's funny. People say you either stick to what you believe is correct, or you can go with the times. And I thought the video games were popular whenever I was in school. The level of popularity that games are now is just incredible.
Yeah.
So if we could find a way to make it competitive within not only the DFW Metroplex, but the Houston area, the San Antonio area, the Austin area, and everywhere outside in between that, to where you could rank yourself, and to make it to where you could see your progress and track your progress and earn points or earn whatever you want to play. Like, I feel like you could get kids actually playing steady with guided routines, guided warm-ups, and earning grades that way, rather than just pointing the finger and saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, because that clearly doesn't work. So, because the kids who want to practice are going to practice.
That's
right.
true.
There's got to be a way to, I guess entice would be the word, entice the kids who kind of have a harder time practicing. Because, I mean, think about it. How many things can you do today as a kid?
Yeah, bajillion.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How many things that we can do. I mean, I don't know how anybody does anything anymore, because there's always something better to do. And that little voice that says, I don't want to, I don't want to practice, is overpowered by every video game you can think of, every Netflix series you want to watch, every YouTube video you want to watch.
100,000 sports, all sorts of stuff.
So we're trying to figure out a way to, and I think we have figured out a way to incentivize them to practice and get them to focus. But anyway, so my week was different.
Well, I've
wait,
got another topic, but feel free to interject if you like.
I'll just be real quick. So
Okay.
I actually got to conduct a middle school band.
Awesome.
Which, you're absolutely right. They'll tell you exactly how the rehearsal is going, and I
Instant feedback.
yeah, and I feel like literally on the spot, they'll just start talking to you. Like, I'm giving instruction on the podium, and they'll go, "What'd you do this weekend, Mr. Nobles?" And I'm like, "Hey, I'm teaching a class." So
Right.
Hold on, appreciate your enthusiasm.
I've got a middle school class who's in the habit of saying, I walk in the class and they say, "Mr. Attaway, let me be the first to ask, how is your day going?" Which is fine, except they usually say it while I'm in the middle of a sentence, trying to get the class started. It's like, shh.
But anyway, I just really quickly want to say that I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Not for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying it was fun for me, but the job is not for me. So
Yeah.
I enjoy what I do as a one-on-one kind of guy. But I love to also, every now and then, it's like Lindbergh, he's a soloist, but he conducts the, oh my gosh, the name of it is escaping me, but he conducts the orchestra, the Malmö Symphony Orchestra in Sweden. So, but anyway, it's not, being a band director is not, it's just, not me. So, but anyway.
To each their own,
What's up?
I said to each their own.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be people that do what we do too, you know, and I think that, in my personal opinion, I think that we drive the engine a little bit more. I think what they do, not trying to be controversial here, I know
You're
this is
becoming
controversial. It is controversial, but you know what? Hey, I think every aspect, every component, it would be like, trying to compare the radiator to the compressor in a car. It's like, how do you compare that? You both need them.
Right.
And one cannot be bad.
Right.
Right? You know what I'm saying? You have to fix it. So sometimes I feel like we underplay our role as private lessons teachers. Well, you've had instances where people have said, "Oh, you're just a private lessons teacher."
Yes. I had a student teacher last year do that.
As have I. I've had the same thing go, "Oh, you're a private lessons teacher." It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Which, whatever, I don't care what you mean. I mean, I know that I'm great at what I do, you're great at what you do, so. But anyway, I think I had interrupted a point that you were going to make about
it's okay.
the convention.
So, my big takeaway from TMEA was this. I'm looking around, and I think it was something like 28,000 people were there. I think that's the number I heard.
Wow.
There were like 15,000 members. There's family members that are there. There's vendors. I mean, thousands of vendors. There's like 28,000 people that showed up for TMEA. And these are people that eat, sleep, and breathe music. This is their life. We got students, hundreds of all-state students that this is their thing in life. This is the thing that they have chosen as their love. And maybe they do this, as a profession, or maybe they don't, but they still love it. And then I look around band programs, and I know at least in Prosper, we have dozens of kids that this is their thing. This is what they do in high school.
They skip lunch.
Yeah, they skip lunch
band.
to come and practice, and
Crazy.
and there's all various degrees within that too. But this is the thing that they like to do.
Right.
They like to do band. Maybe not necessarily practice, because that's another thing. But they like band, or they like orchestra, or they like choir, and so it's very encouraging to see that this is a viable product. Music in schools is extremely viable. It's extremely important. It's extremely popular, at least in Texas.
Right.
Yet, when you go to professional levels and you go to concerts, concert attendance is still down. We're still struggling to get people to go to concerts, to advance the art. We're still, when's the last time you heard of a professional orchestra being formed?
I have never heard of it being formed.
Right. Well, in your lifetime, I think there's been one or two since I've lived in the DFW area since I was born. And maybe have creeped up, but
And I didn't hear about it.
But with
and I was,
the hundreds of kids every year that come out as music majors just in Texas, shouldn't we have dozens of orchestras that should be created over the next few years?
at least.
Dozens. And all the different metropolitan areas, all the suburbs, and they should not be community band. The community bands are great. There's nothing wrong with that. I love that idea. But there should be also professional groups. And they should have a viable concert attendance. And there is something missing here. And I think this is the big thing in the classical music world that we are missing. And I don't know if I necessarily have an answer for this. But we're not translating all of these kids that love this and all these music majors that go through college and they come out and they love this into advancing the art.
And that really is where the art is advanced anyway.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you're thinking about what we're doing here is you're striving to become a better musician, the ultimate goal would be to win a symphony job, I assume, or hold a position as a teacher in the art.
Or just at least support it. Support the art.
And have that's a good point too, because if you're actively engaged throughout your high school or middle school and high school career with taking trips to the symphony, getting master classes from Barry Hearn, who plays principal in Dallas now, for trombone, and getting a relationship with these people, and if you establish a relationship with these folks and you love these folks, and then you go off and become like an engineer, a very successful engineer, or you build up your own company and it profits really well, where are you going to put your money? Back into the people that influenced you, right? And right now there's a complete disconnect between that, and not only that, but what you're talking about is just knowledge of symphonies. And I think this is the funniest thing ever. When you show a kid an orchestral excerpt, like for trombones, like a Mueller 3, the reaction's like, dude, why didn't you show me this before? This is the greatest thing ever.
This is the coolest thing ever to play.
And there's 100 other coolest thing evers to play. I mean, we're about to do analysis on Don Juan.
Yeah.
Incredible music, but nobody knows about it because nobody knows about the symphony. Like, who can name, like the principal, like you should have, basically, Ryan Anthony's name should be like a rock star name to every trumpet player.
Yeah.
The second they're sitting in a seat in a middle school band hall, it's like, this is your idol. You're a trumpet player, you know who Ryan Anthony is, right? I just looked it up. There are currently, this is just from Google, Germany travel, there are currently around 50 grand symphony orchestras in Germany.
50?
50. That doesn't include youth orchestras or
for something that
chambers.
is smaller than the size of Texas, that is a lot.
That's a lot.
And so, without getting too political, I don't want to necessarily have us model the education system of Europe, or the political system of Europe, because I don't think that's the answer. But they've at least got something where they're promoting their culture,
Right.
and it's I think in my opinion, one of the roles of public education is that we have to advance Western culture. We're a Western society. We've got to know what that means, and we've got to be able to look at all the great works from history and understand why they're great and what can that teach us, and that's what advances us as human beings. That's the value of the arts. The arts should not be extracurricular. It should be core.
I agree. Yeah.
That is absolutely crucial because it teaches us just as much about ourselves and about the world around us as a piece of literature does. They're both valuable.
Yeah.
So
you have experience in teaching that aspect, right? To younger kids, like 11 and 12 years old.
Yep.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember you introduced this idea to me, and I was fascinated by it because I didn't know how the kids would handle it, and two, I was kind of curious, like, what kind of impact they would have. So what have you found at that school? The kids receive it well, and did the kids, like, how do the kids seem? Did they seem like more intelligent, more receptive? Do you think it would be something that would work in a public education system?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The reaction I get all the time. This is just general music appreciation. So this is just, let me tell you about music's time periods and composers, and let's listen to stuff.
Okay.
And it's a lot of telling stories and going through history. But in both my college level stuff and in my middle schoolers, it's the same reaction every single year, every single semester. A kid walks into my classroom for the first time and they think, "Why am I here? Why am I doing this?" They don't understand any value to what they're doing.
Ironically enough, they walk into a football stadium and never think that question.
Right. But you know what they do?
They know I'm here because I support the team,
They walk out of my class every semester, every year saying, "This is awesome." And they said that and not everyone, you can't reach everyone, but many of the students say, I can't believe how much I was missing. I've had kids in my college classes. Now this is, if you really think about this is really strange. But I've had kids that have had trouble with attendance in their other classes, and they'll say that they'll show up to my class because they say that that's the one where we talk about stuff that matters. In a music appreciation course, that's where we talk about stuff that matters, yet they can't show up to their math class, their science class, their government class, because they don't perceive that as something that matters.
That's interesting.
And so whether it's how it's being taught, or the fact that the arts maybe are a little bit there's something there that we're missing. It's powerful, and
so that's a really cool thing too, because not only are we saying that people who are involved directly in the arts should be more well connected with their local symphonies and building things like that, but people should just be more exposed to it anyway. Like it should not be an assumption when you show up to the Meyerson Center that you play an instrument.
Right.
Right?
It's for everybody.
Yeah, and dude, I can't tell how many times that I've showed my dad. My dad's a guitar player, but he's more like 70s rock guitar player. I've shown him pieces where he is blown away about, he's like, but because, people's natural perception of classical music is right, and that's it. There is no Don Juan, there's no Mahler, there's no Wagner, there's no John Adams like we talked about last week. There's no perception of anything outside of like Mozart, basically.
Right.
Which Mozart's fine.
Mozart is exciting if you know about Mozart, but if you just listen to it without any understanding of anything that's going on around him, you're missing a lot, and it can seem boring.
Right.
So so all of this I'm talking about, to me, this translates over to if we had to figure out a why for our business, and yes, we're gonna be providing education materials and podcasts and all sorts of stuff, and try to create kind of a following that way. But why are we doing this, man? I think a very noble cause would be to figure out how can we do our part to help inspire people that are younger that this is something worth loving. throughout their entire life. It's something worth going to and attending and learning about and just I think it's huge. And I think that's the responsibility of every professional musician.
Of course, right?
You know?
Yeah, and if people are going to put their focus into something.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what I mean, typically the things that are easier to get your focus into are going to be like a video game.
Yeah.
Right? And if video games are able to do it to where they can capture that large of an audience, we're talking about things, like you said, like your student said, things that actually matter. When you're exposed to them, they actually matter. So it's not only a noble cause, but it's one of the noblest causes outside of, anybody who's doing like military activity or, being involved in politics and stuff like that, which is, I guess, not necessarily a noble activity per se, but
Right.
what we're talking about here is we have a cause that we believe in.
Right.
And there is a huge, like you said, 27,000 or however many thousands of people at a convention at TMEA.
In just Texas.
Just in Texas, right? Doesn't include, Indiana is a huge state for it, Florida, California, all these
Right.
other states are there too. And you know what? We want to do outreach there too. But there is a ginormous disconnect between the level of students who are obsessed with the activity, every aspect of it, obsessed with the activity that don't see the need to be connected on like a local symphony level, or sharing the message to their friends or whatever, saying, "Hey, let's go to the symphony tonight."
Right.
We could sit here and play Fortnite for the next 13 hours, or the symphony's playing on Heldenleben tonight. Let's go check it out.
Or both.
Or
I mean, my
Right.
gosh, go to the symphony and come back and play video games.
right.
I'm not even saying ditch the video games. I mean, I don't really love video games, but,
If you know me,
You
you
do
know I
both.
don't like them either.
you know?
So
And you know what I think it is? I think this type of thing makes people uncomfortable because, I'm going to get very esoteric here. But, back in the old days, we used to talk about the cosmology. And that's the idea that everything around us is connected in one unified whole. And we used to say before 1900 that the cosmos, everything around us, was innately artistic. And today we say it's scientific. And there's a very big difference in that. When you say things that everything is around you is scientific, what that does is that makes the focus on me. Look at what I discovered. Look at what I created. Look at the technology that I created.
rather than we.
Whereas artistic is not only we, but it's also the acknowledgement of a unified whole. It's the idea of a one truth in the world. And the idea of a university, the root of the word university is uni veritas, which is one truth. And as this study to try to figure out that we are all connected, there's a logos and a logic behind everything. And that just makes people uncomfortable because guess what it points to? It points to religion. And we're in a day today that, when we start pointing to anything that even remotely resembles a unified idea, we think, oh well, we can't talk about that. That's dangerous.
Because somebody who's not in that group,
Right.
or somebody who disagrees with that group,
Right.
will feel put upon.
Right.
Right. Which is just, it's a nasty place to be, man.
Right.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that was my takeaway.
From the week.
And this is where I'm starting to feel more of my calling in life. How do we do this?
Yeah, and I believe the same thing too. I mean, I've never really been able to put a pin on it like you have. But that totally makes sense for just another really, really, really great reason. In fact, the main reason to do what we're doing. Because there should be a culture around this kind of stuff. It exists in every other aspect of it. Every aspect of hobbies, right? There are a plethora of YouTube channels for Fortnite players and a plethora of YouTube channels. Apparently there's a new game, by the way, so just
Great.
yeah. So awesome. So anyways, and I was going to say for sports, any sports you can think of, there's like a culture behind it. And there's people like, even an ultimate Frisbee. I don't even know if there's a professional league, but I know that whenever I was over near like over Chisholm Park back in HEB area, I would see whole leagues of ultimate frisbee players, and I would say like, where do I sign up for y'all's leagues? And they're like, oh, we just got together and organized it.
Right.
I'm like, so. Anyways, we're gonna do some analysis on Don Juan by
Awesome
Richard
piece.
Strauss. I know you know the piece very well.
Very well, yes.
And have you ever gotten to perform it?
Not in a concert. I've done several readings of it. I spent one summer in Aspen with the conducting orchestra there, and we read that a couple times with the student conductors, so they would get some experience conducting the piece. So I've read it many times. I've never performed it in a concert though.
There's some good trumpet parts in it.
There's very hard trumpet parts in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I've played it. I got the opportunity to play it at U of H. And now, sorry, trombone players, but trombone part ain't that great. Just as a matter of fact, but that's okay.
Right.
Just one more for the road, right? So, so anyways, we're just going to go through this, and I'm going to be talking a lot as there is so much material in here that I want to cover. So just a few quick facts about it. It was written in 1888, which if you know when Richard Strauss was born is 1864, which would put him at 24 years old.
Yeah.
I'm 24 years old, and I think I've got the score in front of me, I look at this material and I go, that's crazy. Like, you created the bane of a violinist's existence at 24 years old. And apparently, whenever they were testing out this piece, there was just multiple complaints about the level of difficulty across the spectrum. Every instrument was going, this is too hard. And he just kind of went, you're supposed to be professionals. Sorry. So, and you know what? He challenged them. He came up with a radical idea that people disagreed with. And now he's one of the most famous composers in history, because this definitely kicked off pieces like, if you don't know Richard Strauss, it's not Richard Strauss. Please don't say Richard Strauss. Richard Strauss, he's got Thus Spake Zarathustra.
Also
sprach
Zarathustra.
Yes, that one. I think that's going to be the new favorite line for this podcast. Ein Heldenleben, you've got Till Eulenspiegel lustig Streik.
Lustige Streicher.
Lucas I don't know how German,
Alpine Symphony.
Alpine
Sinfonia Domestica. Don Quixote.
Don Quixote is the other one I'm thinking
Yeah.
of. Good viola solo in that one. But anyways, we're going to look at one of the earlier pieces that he wrote, and that is Don Juan. And this is going to be the New York Philharmonic version with Alan Gilbert back in 2010.
Nice.
So it's a live recording, so you'll hear a bunch of Phil Smith.
That's not bad.
And when yeah, right. And when the trombones are playing, it's Joseph Play It Out Alessi. So
That's not bad either.
yeah, so
That'll do.
Yeah, he's all right. So, all right, very exciting opening. Let's see. And okay, here we go. So anytime you hear this triplet theme, da 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 da, this is going to be the heroic theme number 1. And basically he's battling between two themes. So he's got the heroic theme and then the lover theme. So the romantic and the hero, right? Anytime you hear anything that's like a galloping and a fast 2 is going to be a heroic theme.
Isn't it amazing how everything goes up? Everything's ascending.
Yeah.
As in, like, triumph.
Yeah. Very triumphant.
Yeah.
So he's got about a minute-long intro. Repeat theme. Bum, bum, bum. Like very, very, you can just see him going bum, 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 right? He's really focused. And I want to make the point, anytime you hear any kind of diminished ideas, it's supposed to be that he's confused about what he's after. So just listen for that. It's great stuff. Ooh, a lovely lady walks in. It's supposed to be he sees a new female walk in, so he's like, oh, distracted. But then he remembers he's a hero. Oh, a hero. Yeah, that's right. And apparently this is like ladies going, ah, ha, 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 ha. It's great stuff. I mean, I did a bunch of research on this kid. Here comes Diminished. He's like, I think I'm a hero, but she's really cute. She's really attractive. And then you're hearing a violin solo coming up here pretty soon. This is the entrance. She's here. Violin solo. It's supposed to be her talking to him, saying, "Hello, my name is blah blah blah." And in fact, Strauss, across his pieces, Strauss used the violin as an indication of his wife talking, like his actual wife. I can't remember her name, but in Ein Heldenleben, that ginormous violin solo is a conversation between him and his wife. So anytime you hear a violin like this, it's supposed to be, because at the time of him writing this piece, he was falling in love with who would be his wife.
Cool.
So yeah, it's a fun fact. So. And then what we're about to hear is the first romantic theme. So you have heroic juxtaposed with romantic. And in the romantic theme, it's going to be in the clarinet and the horn. And it's just, you can just, he juxtaposes these two things so well that it's so clear that he's talking about either romance or heroicism. It's just completely different styles of pieces. So that theme continues, and I'm gonna skip over a little bit to basically what I'm just going to go ahead a little bit, and what happens is they have this nice little romance, and then they start to kind of fight, like their honeymoon period is over, and then they start to get a little bit angsty, and that's when the trumpet solo comes in. And that, talk about a minor chord, you'll hear what we're talking about. It's good stuff. So I'm sure Michael knows this part very well.
Very well.
Tension building. And you'll hear the original theme come back. He's like, oh yeah, I'm a hero. I don't have to be wooed by this woman.
Strauss is always the hero.
But I'm so sad because she makes me so sad. But then I remember, I'm a hero. He's reaffirming the fact that he's a hero. Here it comes back. The original theme comes back. French horn players, get your triple tonguing up. It's good stuff. Trumpet.
These are hard.
Good trumpet parts.
So hard.
Anytime you hear this dee da da dee da da dee, obviously it's supposed to be riding a horse. And then he goes through sort of a more confused state. And then what happens is, of course, he comes upon a second lover. Because what else would you do, right?
Right.
So, so anyway, I'm going to pause it and go to the second theme, which is going to be in the oboe. And in my opinion, it's one of my favorite themes. I think it's my favorite romantic theme. In fact, I know it's my favorite romantic theme. It's good stuff. So this is theme number 2, romantic theme number 2. And then same exact storyline, and I think it's supposed to be kind of like a play on how novels were written back then, which is just like overly romantic, overly drastic, and what happens next is the same exact thing. There's a falling out, and he realizes he's a hero again, but this time he uses the horn call, right? And if you don't know what I'm saying when I say the horn call, you're about to find out.
Yeah, very famous.
Super famous, and man, when you hear a symphony that can rip it, it'll send a chill down your spine. That's what a French horn is supposed to sound like, kids. It's major. I know exactly what I'm going for. I'm a hero. But remember, diminished means he's confused.
Right.
Okay? And I love this section of the piece coming up. Same French horn call. Oh, diminished. I'm confused. Trombones right here. This is a second trombone part, not a first trombone. I was very sad when I found that out. And then another playful theme. Triplets. Another really hard lick.
Yes.
And quickly, what's coming up is my favorite French horn lick of all time. There's a lot of them, but this is like my ultimate favorite. Remember, triplets mean riding along, so. It's a little bit happier because he knows his purpose again, but then he's getting confused again because diminished. Here it is, French horn players. A little bit more frustrated, but still riding.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
what happens is he goes to the end, and basically he gets in a controversy with one of his former lovers has like a guy friend that comes back and is like, hey, I heard that you were messing with my friend or whatever, and then he eventually gets in a scuffle, goes from E major to F major. How do you do that? He just does it. So, and in the end, he gets stabbed. That one trumpet note, boom. It's like he's getting stabbed, and
The
then
tragedy of Don Juan.
yeah, and then the last three notes are boom, boom, boom. They represent his last 3 drops of blood before he dies.
Wow. It's
Big
a great
death.
piece.
We're always 2 for 2 on the death pieces.
Yeah, man. Maybe I'll do a death piece next week.
Hey, they're everywhere.
That's like all of romanticism is. I tell my students all the time, the most romantic thing you can do is to die. And it's true.
All right, well, timing wise.
Yeah, we probably should wrap things up. There's sectionals that are going to happen in here soon.
All right, well. So just things that are going on. Obviously we're posting more podcasts, we're getting videos going up. So lots of things going on around here. Brass Camp is officially open. The registration for the camp is officially open.
Pursuitofmusic.com.
And our theme for next week is going to be how to win your band placement auditions. So that is the next relevant topic, I should say. If you want to do well at your band placement auditions, you should listen in.
Awesome.
All right, signing off. Yo, yo, yo.